to the website. But we certainly like the feedback, and we want to improve each time, and that will help us a great deal. Also, if you have cell phones, we ask you to put them on either buzz or turn them off. And now I'll call on our Vice President, Dave Hewitt, who will introduce our speaker. Dave?
This is sort of neat today. We actually have a Berks County native talking to us. Steve graduated from Mifflin in 2001. Went to the University of Pitt, graduated in 2005 with a degree in political science and journalism. At Pitt, he met a co-journalism political science fellow named Kevin Funk. And became very closely tied together, and they really became very passionate on certain affairs, and began writing together a book of Darfur called Scramble for Africa. And so after graduation, Steve went to live in Boston. He's actually working at Harvard right now, and lives in Boston writing and working. So we're very fortunate to have him here, come back to Berks County and talk to us about his passion about Darfur. Steve?
Well, I want to extend a note of thanks to Dave and the World Affairs Council for having me, and for all of you for coming out. I am from the area. I grew up outside of Nolde Forest, but I haven't been keeping up with the news, local news, for a couple of years because, well, I wasn't here. Until that is, the Reading Eagle had the bright idea of adding an application to Facebook so that you could follow their major articles on your news feed. So the high school students in the audience will know what I'm talking about. Well, one of the articles a couple weeks ago said that Reading is now tied with Flint, Michigan as the sixth poorest city in the country, which is pretty impressive. I guess we can replace the media outlets and claim this is our new claim to fame. There is fortunately a solution. The county government is apparently trying to, their bright idea is to demolish as many substandard houses as possible, with the hope that then all the poor people living there will have to move out. The chairman of the county commissioners, he called it a, quote, key tactic to change the demographics of the city. So after reading that, I realized it wasn't quite so arbitrary that I'm here in Reading speaking about Darfur, because some of the same dynamics of marginalization and unaccountable power afflict places, in much of the world in one degree or another. Well, I just want to make something clear to start out with. I don't consider myself an expert on Darfur per se, and I'm not going to talk about the conflict per se so much as the U.S. relationship with Sudan in light of the conflict. And I'm going to try to stick kind of closely to a script here, so I hope you'll forgive me for that, but I'm going to try and pack in as much information as I can. Well, as many of you probably know, at least if you did your homework and looked at a map before you came, Darfur is the western region of Sudan, and the country is located in the northeast of Africa, and it's the largest geographically country in the continent. And Darfur itself is a very big place. It's about the size of Spain. Well, the rest of the world first started hearing about Darfur in 2003. That's when the world learned of its existence, pretty much. And that was because rebels had launched a few daring attacks on military and police outposts in the region. They did so because in protest against years of marginalization. So according to one source, aside from the present bloodshed, just putting that aside, Darfur today is economically less developed than it was in the 19th century. British colonialism had a hand in this, so just to give an indication, the British governor of Darfur in the 1930s and 40s, his name was Philip Ingleston, so pretty sure that wasn't a Darfuri. He wrote at the time, "We have been able to limit education to the sons of chiefs and native administration personnel, and we can confidently look forward to keeping the ruling classes at the top of the educational tree for many years to come." So, you know, there's a small elite in the region who were getting the education. Though this marginalization has actually afflicted a lot of the country. All of the peripheral regions, the capital of Khartoum in the sort of center north of the country has gotten the lion's share of investment in infrastructure and education and healthcare and so on. But Darfur is the place that rebelled. And it's not for the first time. So, for instance, in 1991, there was a rebellion which was violently put down then as well, although it wasn't quite so violent as the current rebellion. But it's been going on for a long time. Well, the government responded to these attacks in 2003 by organizing a counterinsurgency campaign. So this predictably led to very brutal results and mass atrocities. Some 2.2 million people were displaced from their homes, and tens of thousands of people were killed outright, violently, and then many more people died from disease and starvation as a result of being displaced. The most commonly cited figures are some 300,000 people who died as a result of the conflict. The worst of the violence was in 2003 and continued on through first part of 2005, and then the killing sort of tapered off after that. At this point, there's just sort of low-level, scattered fighting, killing. Just to give an indication, the past couple of weeks, there's been some government attacks in North Darfur, and many people have been driven from their homes. A few people have been killed. But for the most part, it's died down quite a bit. There's actually more violence in the south of Sudan right now than in Darfur. There's some real tensions that could lead to an outbreak of the civil war between the north and the south again, but you know, that's another story. But the current humanitarian situation in Darfur is, the principal issue right now is that there are huge displaced camps, camps for the displaced. People have been driven from their homes, and so there's places like Zamzam and Abu Shuk. Well, so, you know, they want to return, obviously, and they would like a just solution. Well, that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of what's happened in Darfur. Now, what's most striking about the Darfur conflict is not the scale of the violence, because sadly, if you look around the world, it's not particularly unusual. What's striking is that we've all heard of Darfur. So by contrast, how many people have heard of Ituri or the Kivu provinces in the Democratic Republic of the Congo? Well, the conflict in the Congo started in 1998 and formally ended 4 years later, but the violence still continues. And it, by now, has killed well over 5 million people. So it's by far the most violent conflict since World War II. Nothing else even comes close. Well, you know, there has been very little coverage in the US corporate press, just some scattered articles periodically. So if you were to compare the column inches that have been written in, you know, say, the New York Times or the Washington Post about Darfur versus